everyone. Welcome back to Baggage Claim Unpack Your Bags with Dr. Danita. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are in season 5. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I've gone live with Baggage Claim. The end of 2021 nearly sucked the life out of me. So I took 2022 as my year of healing. And I took what I considered an amazing journey of me. I focused on my wellness, my mind, my body, my spirit. I took time to just reflect on some of my lived experiences. I processed life where I was and thought about my future, discovered some things about me that I liked, some things that I didn't like, some things that I should have been celebrating. I took some time to even grieve in ways that I hadn't done in the past. Loved on my family and even got some travel in. So as you can see, I have a whole lot to share and I'm back to tell the story. And I do hope that you will find these episodes to be helpful for wherever you may be in your season of life. As always, there will be mental health tips, there'll be education, and I hope that it will be beneficial for you as you join us on each episode. So, are you ready to take this journey with me? If so, let's go live. Hey everyone, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. We are back and we are in season 5, The Journey of Me. I can't wait for these episodes to begin. I have my dear friend, Kwaisha Bynum, with me tonight, affectionately called Q. Just to share a little bit, I know I already shared in the intro video, but and while I'm talking, make sure you go ahead and like and share. Please share. Take a minute to even go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe and hit the notification so that you can get the notifications for future episodes. But I just wanted to share tonight's episode is entitled The Confessions of a Healing Leader. And when I thought about being transparent and being vulnerable, I remember having a conversation with my sister, and she's like, I don't know why people get on social media and tell their business. And I thought about that, and I thought about how many times I've been helped by hearing people's stories and hearing where people were and how they navigated life and how they were able to experience wellness or hope and healing or development in some kind of way. And I'm a helper. And so I thought, you know what I experienced was a lot, but it's the human experience is common. And so what I experienced, a lot of other people, I'm sure, are going through, have been through, and could benefit from our story. And I chose to have Q on tonight because we were both going through very similar situations. We were in it together, I should say. And so we both were in leadership, both had our boots on the ground, doing the work of ministry, but I was also in leadership in my business. And she's also a leader in my business as the manager here. And so we just shared so much in common as we went through our journey. And so I thought, yeah, let me have Q on tonight. Of course, my husband went through, but you know, when you have the role of being an executive pastor, he was a senior pastor. When you have the role of being an executive pastor and the community pastor, your feet are on the ground and you are moving and you're doing the work. And so, yeah, thanks for being with me tonight.
I am honored to be here with you. It was actually a very exciting opportunity to be here and share. Yeah, I think it's going to help many. It's going to cause some to take a second thought.
Yeah.
But I know the place that it's coming from, it's going to sink deep in.
Yeah. So, ready to get started?
I am.
So, just to share a little bit of background, I was trying to think of where I should start. So I mentioned that 2021 nearly sucked the life out of me, but we could say that it went back much further than that. I think 2021 was more of an accumulation. Absolutely. Or the last straw. The straw that broke the camel's back.
Right. Yeah.
Because to be honest, y'all, ministry is just hard. And I know you hear people say that, but unless you are in certain positions, you really can't understand the depth of what people mean when they say ministry is hard. Right? Mm-hmm. So when I just think back over, it was almost 10 years that, we were pastoring. I'm not going to go through all of the details of years ago, but just the weight of it, the work, the it just never ends.
Never.
And for a pastor, like it's like 24/7, always on your mind. You go to bed thinking about people, thinking about ministry, thinking about who you didn't reach out to, or especially when you're in a small ministry. Right. You're thinking about who you didn't touch or who you heard had a bad something that you need to catch up with them. And,
exactly.
And then all of the programs and all of this one, we need to pray for this one, or we need to disciple that one, or we need to spiritual parent this one. And then other people have their own stuff that ends up coming to the leader's lap. And you had nothing to do with it, but it's still, and I had never experienced so much drama. The church could really be a place very drama filled, and pastors who don't have to, who are not part of small ministries don't really have to be involved with that.
Right.
But when you step off the pulpit and like all the people are right there, you're really, really involved.
Absolutely.
Like, and we went to everything. We weren't the kind of pastors who, you had your thing. We went to everybody's thing, everybody's birthday, everybody's shower, everybody's celebration, everybody's retirement, everybody's everything.
Everybody's everything.
So we were entrenched, like we were in it. Deep.
Like feet cemented.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was going to go to this talk about, the pastor, but let's say, so the pandemic hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, no pastor, knew what to do, knew what decisions to make. Like we were just shooting in the dark, like, because we didn't know what tomorrow held, what the future was going. So we're just trying to make decisions, and I wasn't just making decisions. Me and Pastor weren't just making decisions for the church, but I was making decisions for the counseling ministry, for the business, and so it was just a lot. And during that time, we both had some personal challenges that we were going through. So I had business things that I had to make decisions about. The pandemic hit. I had the church, and then we were going through issues personally at home with our family, and Kiara, she doesn't make it a secret, so she was dealing with depression and anxiety and some suicide ideation, all that going on at the same time. Kevin hasn't made it a secret anymore that he was going through a divorce. It was just a lot. Mm-hmm. It was overwhelming. Yeah. And so just share some of the things that...
Yeah, so pandemic hit, and as you mentioned, we were just trying to, first of all, we were just trying to navigate what that would look like as leaders of a church, because not only are you responsible for your family, you're also responsible for your church family. And so trying to navigate, do we open? Do we not open? Is it safe? Are we protecting ourselves? Right. Are we protecting our families? Are we going to bring COVID back to our families? But the people need fellowship because they need something to hold on to. They need to have something tangible that they can hold on to build their faith up. And the pandemic hit, and we were like, okay. In addition to me personally dealing with my own health issues, that really was a lot. In addition to losing my grandmother and my aunts due to COVID, and then turn around and boom, my son got sick unto almost death. It was a lot. Yeah. But you still got the calls. Are we opening the church? Is there a church? What are we going to do? How do we get Zoom going? How do we...
and all of that. Navigating all the technology from the living room.
Yeah.
And you're not technically savvy.
All of that.
It was...
all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just deep in it. And it really, really... And again, I guess I can speak for both of us because again, we probably was knee deep in. I don't even think we were feet in. Yeah. Boots, I think it was a little bit past boots.
To the waist?
Yeah, probably to the waist.
Well, to be honest, by the time a year passed, I felt like I was like, you know how when you jump in the water, you don't know how to swim,
right?
And you may start sinking a little bit of water gets in your mouth, and then you jump back up. You're like, I felt like it had gotten to that.
It did.
Where I literally felt
like you couldn't breathe.
I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
I couldn't think.
Everything.
I couldn't make another decision between the business, between the church, and then experiencing, like, we thought after a certain period of time people were going to come back.
Right.
And we thought, okay, we got it. We'll hold it down.
Right.
We send out a survey and we say, hey, people are going to come back. And people say, oh, yeah, when we get vaccinated. And so when that didn't happen, it was like, oh, my gosh. And so we had, some people there, and they were doing a good job.
They were.
But we were the...
Right. And when everybody else was able to take a break, we couldn't.
Right.
Because of the burden of the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so somebody may say, well, you all could have just not opened up.
We could have. Of course, we look back in hindsight.
Absolutely.
And I had to ask many times, because of the way, we made the decision that we were going to take a break. But the things that happened after that and how bad it got.
Right.
I look back and I say, well, like, did we hear from God, or did we do what we thought
was best.
Right. Did we do what we thought the people wanted, the people that were asking, and the young people that wanted to get in there, and did we do it because we were excited that these young people really wanted ministry? And I asked myself over and over,
and I think it just goes back to, when you have a shepherd's heart,
mm-hmm.
you have a shepherd's heart for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And a shepherd will put himself in harm's way
mm-hmm.
to protect the sheep.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, when the sheep, needed their shepherd,
mm-hmm.
whether it was the older people, whether it was the younger people, as shepherds, we stepped in and we did what we thought we needed to do to protect our sheep.
Yeah.
And so in hindsight, whether we felt we heard from God or not, the reality is that our heart was for God's people.
You're right.
And we were willing to put ourselves in harm's way,
mm-hmm.
put ourselves between the wolves and
mm-hmm.
the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
To protect our sheep. And so, some people may challenge that, but it's okay. We thought we were doing what was in best interest
mm-hmm.
of the sheep. There was nothing that we got out of it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, opening up in the midst of the pandemic, because we were getting, there was some great reward that we would get.
Right.
We did it because we knew that there was a body of people that was saying that they needed God.
That were yearning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So fast forward, by the end of 2021, we had very little strength left, and
very little.
We went into that prayer, right?
Yes,
for the month of September.
Yes,
we decided,
mm-hmm.
we were going to pray, and I felt when we made the decision that we were going to take a break, that it was best for us, and it was also going to be best for the people.
Absolutely.
Because I had nothing else to give.
Yeah.
And I remember times of just like bawling my eyes out and then getting a text with somebody that needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to say, I just got finished bawling my eyes out. I don't have anything for you.
Right.
I just really don't.
Right. And what do you do with that as a leader?
Right.
What do you do with that as a leader when you're at your breaking point?
Mm-hmm. And that's why we asked the question, when a ministry leader's mental health is tanking, should they continue in leadership in that season, or should they take a step back? What do you all think?
Yeah, I would love to hear.
Be interactive with us. What do you all think? We decided to take a step back.
Exactly. We did, and when I tell you, it was the best decision that we've made for me in my entire life. Mm-hmm. Taking that step back and just allowing myself to just take a really hard look
mm-hmm.
at everything.
Yeah.
Not
mm-hmm.
leaving anything out, just taking a look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have I really been able to give my family what they needed?
Right.
Have I given myself
that part
what I needed? Yeah. Because when you're in ministry, you're giving,
mm-hmm.
and you're giving,
and giving,
and giving,
mm-hmm.
and giving, and I don't regret any of it. And I will continue to give. It will just look different.
Right. And for me, I wasn't just giving in ministry, but the nature of my business was also giving. So I felt like I was on 24/7. Like I'm just giving and mm-hmm. giving and giving. And I didn't expect clients to give back to me, of course.
Right, exactly.
But I was depleted nonetheless. But so after we made that decision, we decided we were going to get some, godly counsel as to how to proceed. After saying, okay, we're going to take this step, mm-hmm. let's get some godly counsel as to what this will look like down the road. And so we connected with a pastor, and someone connected us with this pastor, and we were just so grateful because it has a big ministry. We were so grateful that he took the time, to meet with us, and he encouraged us, and some of the things he said would, it was like, in hindsight, could you have, or maybe you could have used, and we're like, we didn't have anybody to use. It was,
Right.
We're sitting here looking at 20 people. We didn't have anybody,
Right.
else to step in to give us,
Right.
a reprieve. And so, he encouraged us. He prayed for us and gave us his number and said, I'll, if you need to call, and we need to talk again, that'd be great. And then a month later, 2 months later, we saw him on social media saying the same thing that we had just come to him. And I was like, wow, this thing is really real. And he talked about how depleted he was. He took the one thing that hit me, that he said that he had reached his end. He said that he clocked in 17 years ago. He gave the analogy of having a job where you clock in, clock out, clock in, clock out. But he said he had clocked in 17 years ago and never clocked out as a leader. And he said that he had reached his end, and that at this point, he said he recognized, and we all recognize, that leaders are going to take punches. Because
Absolutely.
That's just the nature of
a shepherd.
Right? We're going to take the punches. But he said that he had gotten to the point where he wasn't healing fast enough. He wasn't healing fast enough from the punches, and he was afraid. He said he was afraid that it was going to spill over on the people because he wasn't healing fast enough, and he was going to end up leading from his emotions.
Right.
And being mental health professionals, we knew that was where we were. We knew what that meant, and we knew that's where we were. And before we do some serious, because I was at the point where, people were going to see a lot of my humanness, and that wouldn't have been good. And so, so when he said that, I was like, wow. And then we started seeing posts, when you're in a situation,
you start seeing, your eyes are open.
Yeah.
Your eyes are open. Yeah.
So, I'm sure people were posting these kinds of things all the time. But once your eyes are open, you start seeing posts, and this pastor is talking about how hard ministry is, and another one is talking about how hard it is, and this one's talking about when people come after you. I copied a few. These were in reference to people slandering you, and because it got really nasty.
It did.
At the end of our time, and it just seemed like a wave came through. A spirit came through, and people who were celebrating us were no longer celebrating us, and people who wanted to give us services the next week, they were leaving the church, and it was just I use the word weird, but it was very demonic. It was very demonic. Because you can't be celebrating. You can't say amazing things about me today, and tomorrow I'm no longer amazing.
And then exactly.
So it was really demonic, but not that it was a first for me that somebody was saying bad things, or because people get people get talked about all the time. But it was just coming. Oh, you didn't meet my need. You didn't. I needed you to be my spiritual mother, and you didn't this, and you didn't that, and you weren't there for me. You said this, and you didn't care. You didn't follow through on this, or you didn't meet my need here, and I wanted to go out with you there, and I was like, ah.
Right.
How much can I be?
Right.
One person, and everybody thinks I'm supposed to be everything to all people. And so, it had gotten, pretty bad, but we started seeing these posts, and like, don't trust people who attack and slander people they used to give props to. I'm like, and at that point, I have to be honest, my heart was not, I'm going to be real honest. My heart was not in a good place, and I was like, that part,
yes,
that part, and
like,
it wasn't
like,
and it wasn't
like,
a yeah,
exclamation.
right,
Yes.
right. But the one thing I wouldn't do would repost. I wouldn't.
No.
Because I don't want people.
No.
I didn't want to put myself in that kind of position. But then it was people. People may destroy your image, stain your personality, but they can't take away your good deeds, because no matter how they describe you, you will still stand. No, I'm sorry. You will still be admired by those who really knew you better.
Mm-hmm.
And that those things were just encouraging.
Yes.
Indeed. They're not going to tell you how you helped them, how you were the only one who saw good in them. The only part they remember is after years of saying yes to them, you say no, and their fragile souls process the no as rejection. Now you're an unanointed devil. And these are the things that are real for me.
Yes.
I don't want to say I didn't believe it, but when you hear people tell stories,
you take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, until you actually live it and experience it. And I'd be sitting there thinking like,
does everybody go through this?
Yeah, and also when people come to you with stories, the way that they tell the stories, you're like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you at your previous church. Oh, they shouldn't have done that to you. And now I'm thinking, the way in which the stories are being told about me, about us, I'm like, that didn't happen at that last church. Because I know that's not me. But after a while, you could be thinking like, did I really do that?
Right, start to make you question whether or not you're all of it.
Yeah, and I know that obviously when neither of us are imperfect.
No.
But I'm like, is that what they say? So I was like, I need to get into counseling. I need to get into counseling fast because I was really struggling. And yeah, I was struggling. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off of the story about the pastor, what I found interesting was that here we were at our day of reckoning, at our moment of reckoning, and we're pouring out our heart to this pastor, and he was very supportive of us. But after the fact, and then we saw his transition into his rest, I thought to myself, God, did you just use us in all of our pain and despair? Did you just use us to normalize the opportunity for pastors to say, I'm at my wit's end and I need a rest? Because not many pastors will be transparent enough to say, I'm at my wit's end.
Well, people can be at their wit's end in any other career.
Absolutely.
But pastoring.
You're not allowed to.
You've been called. This is the highest calling.
Yeah.
And I still have the calling.
Absolutely.
I've just transitioned into
another
form of pastoring.
Absolutely.
And love what I do.
And ditto.
And so, yeah.
Because I don't, I'm thinking back now, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if he would have had the courage to take that step and say, I need a rest.
Yeah. When he said he was taking a month, I wanted to call him.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, Pastor, you need more than a month.
Yeah.
I'm like, 17 years and you haven't checked out?
Yeah,
you need a little more than a month. Yeah. I know someone posted that, pastors, they need vacation, and that is true.
Yeah.
But pastors need like real sabbaticals.
Yeah.
Like more than a week or two. And I commend pastors who take a month or, periodically throughout the year, because a week is not enough.
It's just not enough.
It's just not enough. It's not enough, like he mentioned. Having been in ministry so long, you don't heal as fast as you once did when you were younger. It just, because as you transition through different seasons of life, different things happen. And so the shots that the enemy are sending, we know it's the enemy, right? But the shots that he's sending, they start to hit deeper.
Yeah, because you don't have time to really replenish.
Right.
And so you're more open.
Right.
You're more vulnerable.
You just put a Band-Aid on it as opposed to putting some antiseptic and stitching it up.
Yeah.
Cleaning it out and stitching it up.
Yeah.
And so when the Band-Aid gets ripped off, now you're back to where you started. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah. So while we were going through and experiencing and living it, and both in our own pain, I'm just thinking back, like how we got through. Because I would look at you, and I knew you were in a lot of pain. You didn't know what was happening, with your son's health, your own health, and then I, was dealing with my, own family struggles, and I'm thinking, and the ending, of ministry, because it hit me a little different, being, my role was a little different from
absolutely.
yours. So I'm replaying things in my head, and how did it get to get to that, and what we could have done differently, and I'm just replaying stories in my head, and it was really starting to plague me, replaying mean things that were said, and people can say all day long, I don't really care, the words that people hurl, but after they hurled enough, it hurts.
Words hurt.
It does hurt. It hurts. And so I was trying to heal, from the hurt, and you were there for me, but I also knew that you were hurting as well. And I'm like, how, two of us hurting, and two hurt people are gonna
could be very toxic.
That, right?
Could be very toxic.
So a couple of times, like we got the doors open and we're hurling things at each other about what we experienced. I'm like, this is not good. We can't heal like this. We don't act like we're in a counseling center right now.
And counselors ourselves.
Right? So, so although we had each other to talk to, I think we were venting more, and it was, So we both realized we needed to be a counselor. Right.
That part, we knew. No, but we knew. We were wounded.
Yeah.
You take any wounded dog, they're barely moving. They're moaning. Yeah. Our moaning was our hurling of frustrations.
Yeah.
But we were wounded.
We were.
And again, it was a culmination of a lot of different things. And when you don't get the opportunity to take the time to heal. So somebody, let's challenge that. So somebody would say, well, you could have just let other people step in and you took a break.
If we had other people.
We would have.
Actually,
we would have loved to have been able to take time, away and let other people step in and do that. But that wasn't an option. It wasn't afforded to us. And so, as much as we would have loved to have taken, I would have loved to have taken a break with the way that I was feeling.
Yeah. But we talked about how sometimes it has to get that bad.
Yes.
In order for your eyes to be open. We had a good season.
Absolutely.
And we had amazing growth.
We did.
We ministered to people.
Yeah.
And it was positive. People people that came to the building always talked about how they felt the presence of God, things that, you know, we would not, that we wouldn't compromise on was prayer and fasting.
Absolutely. And living holy.
And living holy.
And living holy.
So I had to get to the place where I could remember when and not use what happened at the very end to be my
to define
the totality
of the ministry. Absolutely. We poured. We poured, and when we were going through our things, and it was a moment for me. I don't know if you really caught it when we were packing up the thing. We were packing up a lot of our things that we were just packing up church stuff. And looking at all of the material, the day that we studied, and how we put together curriculums and programs and discipleship program, and as much it was actually a moment of like, you know. But then I was like, we really tried our hardest to pour all that we knew God would give us into people, and so that was comforting. It was definitely comforting. Yeah.
So through counseling, I was able to, you know, process all of that and kind of move past, you know, some guilt of feeling like, you know, or failure. For a minute, you know, there was a little bit of feeling, you know, of failure, like, oh, you could have pushed through, because I know how to push through.
Oh yeah, that's what we did. We didn't just get into ministry. Right.
Been pushing through.
We've been pushing through. We've been in the church a very long time. We know how to push through. Yeah. But through counseling, I realized that a lot of my pushing through wasn't good for me. Right. It just wasn't good. And that was a hard pill to swallow. Because all of our lives we've been fed the word. And David said, I'm going to encourage myself. I'm going to encourage myself in the Lord. And yes, you can. But which place are you going to trust him from? Your broken place or your healthy place?
Yeah. And pushing through, I know for me, I could not have done it all. I could not have gotten to a place of being able to work on me, to work on my emotional health, to work on my spiritual health. I was spiritually depleted. And I, to be honest, I know that there's a lot of pastors out there that are spiritually depleted. Yeah. And surveys are saying that pastors only study the word to give a message, because they don't have, especially if you're bivocational.
Especially if you're bivocational.
It takes hours to study the word to give a message, a 45-minute message, and then you working every single day. And
then not in addition to Bible study, in addition to prayer nights, in addition to all the calls that you get throughout the night from people who are in need, because everybody's problems become your problem urgently. Yes. Urgently. And so, and then you don't want to be that pastor where somebody urgently calls you for an issue and not be available.
Yeah. And I was, and I'm not, I was, it pleased me to be able to respond.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that weighs on you.
Yes.
After a while.
Yeah.
Still while you're leading. Still while you're trying to grow the ministry. Still while you're trying to get resources to make available for the community. Yeah. All those parts.
Yeah. So taking that initial step back and then getting the release to say we weren't going to go back in and you know, attempt to rebuild. It took me a long time to, I knew it internally, but it took me a long time to have the courage to say, I feel free. Because like, how can a pastor say they feel free? Like,
and that is not common.
No.
That is so against the grain.
Oh my gosh. And I certainly couldn't say it to, I felt like I can't say that to anybody, like not in my circle, you know, but like.
Not the church mothers.
No. How do you say that? But I can say it today.
I know that's right.
I can say it today because I am doing ministry and and people are growing. People are developing here. People are finding hope and healing.
Amen.
And y'all, I'm going to talk about this in another episode, but we serve over 250 people a week.
God is good.
Ministry.
That's ministry.
Yeah.
That's outside of the walls.
Outside of the walls. And so it had to happen like that for us to see, because we kept saying, we need to, it's outside of the four walls. But we still coming to church in the four walls, doing the four walls. And then we say, we preach over the pulpit, we need to get outside of the four walls. And we come back to church and we do the four walls.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Counseling definitely, counseling definitely saved my life. Definitely. Yeah, it did.
Talk about that.
Don't.
It's 8:15 already?
Yeah. When I tell the story about the things that I've been through, I say I was never hopeless because I had Christ. So I was never hopeless that Christ wasn't there, that he wasn't that. It was never no doubt of questioning why God. It was never that. But I felt helpless. And I felt helpless, and in my state of, because I had been so accustomed to pouring out into people, we talked about the strong woman. Right. We talked about the strong black woman.
And we qualify.
And we qualify. We probably had the A+ in the class. And nobody.
People don't view the strong black woman as someone who needs
exactly
to be poured into.
And that's what counseling did for me. It gave me a space where I could be poured into in a way that I can experience the freedom I needed. And experience the hope that I needed in reference to me. To help me regain the strength that I needed to go and continue on and to be what my family needed. I shared with you one time, I said, when we were thinking about, taking a step back, I said, I need to take time. I've poured into people's lives in the church and outside of the church. I've always been a servant and I've poured. But it was time for me to pour into my family. And I think for me, I needed to do that because my family, although they were always supportive of me doing the work, my husband totally understood the calling on my life. My children were raised in it. They saw me. So that wasn't the issue. But it was at that moment where I realized that I needed to be present for my children to live.
Yeah. And although our children are not children, we were given to other adults.
Absolutely.
So and we both talked about that. I remember one young adult saying to me, you give more time to these young adults than you give to your own children.
Wow.
And that really stung.
Yeah.
And not that my children ever had any complaints.
No.
They were very willing to share me as mom.
Absolutely.
What they weren't willing to do was to see people
abuse
me. Yeah. But just as a disclaimer, because sometimes we make blanket statements. I won't say that no one ever encouraged me. We had people who were close. But those weren't the people that were drinking either.
Right. Yeah, I won't say that. I won't. No. What I mean by that.
Generally speaking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
But no, I won't make a blanket statement, and I'll retract that. I won't say that no one reached out, and I don't. I'm sure people were praying for me. I would hope.
Yeah.
I would
but
hope.
It got to the place where there was more
of
taking than we were actually
receiving.
receiving.
And that's what my counselor said to me.
Yeah.
She said, at the end of the night, when you lay down your head, how many people can you say poured into you?
Mm-hmm.
And it made me take a really hard look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At my surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do some really deep soul searching. But it was freeing.
Yeah.
It has been a freeing journey. Yeah.
Yeah. For me,
Yeah.
In counseling, I had an opportunity to have my feelings validated.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I was the type of person that would give people passes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know they've been hurt, or I know that they had a hard life, and I would say the book Hurt People, but that doesn't give you a pass. Yes, hurt people do end up hurting people, but it doesn't make it right.
Right. Exactly.
And I was giving people passes. Well, they said that about me, or they did that, or whatever, because they were abandoned, or they were this or that. But everybody still has a responsibility to deal with this stuff. And if it hurt me, I have the right to say it hurt me.
Absolutely.
And not give them, well, let me just clean up my hurt real fast because they didn't mean it.
Well, I'm going to take it one step further, or attach a scripture to it.
Mm. Go ahead.
Attaching scripture to the pain.
That's
and dismissing.
You did.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
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 Oh, they did it to Jesus.
Yes. So who are we?
Right.
Yeah. And that's true. It doesn't mean Jesus hurt. He was disappointed in his disciples that couldn't stay awake.
He told them.
And he told them.
So at some point we lost the connection of being like Christ,
mm-hmm.
experiencing the life of Christ, but we can't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kiara says we're definitely poster for the strong Black woman. So being poster for the strong Black woman, knowing that the nature of strong Black women are always giving. Mm-hmm. We
always suppress our own
pain and emotions. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I read was that strong Black women find their coping among the community spiritually.
Right.
And that was something that we both looking at each other like, the people our age are not here, and this is our community.
And this is our community.
Yeah. And I had to work through feelings of abandonment.
Mm.
And let me just say that there was a post that I made a couple of weeks ago that talked about perception. Your perception is not always reality. But it was real for me at the moment.
Right.
It didn't mean that people abandoned me, but that's what I was feeling in the moment. Mm-hmm. And we have to feel our feelings, then we process them. Absolutely. And we determine whether they're accurate feelings, but we have to acknowledge the feeling first.
That's so true. That's so good.
So I was going through so much loss. I had lost several counselors, mm-hmm. and it wasn't that I didn't know that they were, they had already, this group that came in, I already knew that they were aspiring to have their own business. They all graduated at the same time.
And so they all left. So on top of it, it just felt like it was lost.
It was just
after
loss. And so
how much
when you experience that kind of loss, it can feel like abandonment.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're really close to people. Yeah. So working through having my, my counselor was making me say it, rather than, well, I understand where people are. No. Say it. What were you feeling?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being able to, be validated and, process and just, what, I'm knocking 60's door down.
Mm-hmm.
And you process life
very differently. I know that's right.
As you
right.
climb that,
right.
That age ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to take a step back and just think about those things.
And process that.
And just
because then that's another transition.
Yeah.
That's a big transition.
Who am I now?
Right.
And what do I want for my future in this stage
of my life?
And I couldn't even think about that when I'm every Saturday planning for the next day or having some Saturday event or teaching this or I couldn't even think about me.
Right.
And I'm excited.
Yeah, you should.
I'm excited to be thinking about me.
Absolutely.
Unapologetically.
And if you don't get anything else from this live, give yourself grace to love you unapologetically.
Yeah.
Because when you pour out to people, you often get lost in the process.
Mm-hmm.
That don't mean that we didn't go and have spa days. It don't mean that we didn't go and we vacate. I vacation 3 times a year. It's different.
Just processing.
Yeah. Life.
Yeah. Not just doing life.
Not just doing life.
Yeah.
But being in the moment.
Yeah.
And there were many times where we didn't get the opportunity to just be.
Yeah.
And even when we think about our own spirituality, we got to be in the moment. The Bible tells us that we shouldn't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself, right? So he wants us to be in that moment.
Yeah.
And so I'm embracing that, being in the moment.
And at this point, I can honestly renew my thoughts. Like, not just get up on the pulpit and say,
the Bible says you should renew
your mind every day and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I can't even figure out how to get rid of yesterday's thoughts. And I know the skills. I'm like,
exactly.
It doesn't mean anything to be a professional. Everybody has a physical body, and when that physical body reaches this point, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be a physician, you could be a mental health clinician, you could be a nurse. When your body reaches a certain point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you know to do. You just physically don't have it.
Right. You just don't have it. And let us put the disclaimer out. This is not us saying that we didn't that the church is bad and that the church is this. These are because there will be somebody that will say, they're bitter, or they,
well,
they'll say anything.
Yeah,
the enemy will love to take our words and twist them to cause somebody else to, deter from God or whatever the case may be. But I would love for people to know that you have to go on your journey.
Yes.
We are only sharing our journey. And that doesn't look, my journey didn't look like yours.
Right.
It was similar in a lot of ways, but it's not, you didn't experience what I experienced. I didn't experience what you experienced. And so, you got to take a step back. Our goal is for you to do some self-inventory on you.
I'm excited for Pat. I mean, this is all we knew.
Right.
I'm excited for pastors who, we were in this pastors network and there was a pastor who talked about the things that he has implemented since day one. And I'm very happy that he had been able to do that and stay in a healthy place.
Right.
And for all those pastors that are able to do that, and they have,
Right.
you know, what they need to
Right.
be able to do, I am excited
Absolutely.
for them, and high five them and cheer them on.
Absolutely.
But if you are one who is at your last,
and you're not
and all
saying
these
it,
pastors who have committed suicide,
that part, pastors are
need,
checking out.
You need to let somebody know. Do not stay in isolation.
No.
And we every Monday when we pray, I
You
pray
pray
for
for the
those
leaders.
pastors. I pray for leaders every single Monday morning, coming
morning.
against that overwhelming spirit, that spirit of overwhelm, and that spirit of depression, Monday morning letdown from whatever they gave out on Sunday. We don't fail to pray.
You're right.
For leaders, for
You're
faith leaders,
right.
every Monday morning.
Every Monday morning.
And if you want to join us for prayer every Monday morning, that's one thing we did not give up.
I know that's right, because one thing we do know how to do is pray.
5:30. We'll send you the Zoom link.
That part.
But for leaders who are experiencing hardship and experiencing suffering is part of the call.
Absolutely.
We know that.
Absolutely.
We know that. But if you are at the place where you are drowning, please step back. It doesn't mean you have to close the ministry.
Right.
That was what we
decided.
Please step back for your health and for your parishioners' health.
Absolutely.
Express your pain. It does not make you a weak leader to express your pain. Be honest with your feelings.
Jesus was.
He sure was.
He went to that garden, and what did he do? He lay there
he agonized to the point where blood.
It was like blood.
Sweat and blood. Yeah. Emotions can definitely cloud your judgment. So if you are at the place where you are at your wit's end, you're at your last, you are definitely going to be functioning from your emotions, and that will not be good.
Nope.
It will not be good. Take short getaways to think, to process life. I know I take my getaways, and I ain't really getting away, y'all. All I'm doing is going 20 miles down the road to a hotel just to be alone, just to be by myself, and to be able to say a lot, to just be. Get counseling, y'all. Get counseling.
Get counseling.
I know a good therapist can help. I know a good therapist that can help.
Right. We know a good practice too.
We know good practice that can help. Yeah. And then I would just say, just know when it's time to let go. And it's not a failure.
It's not.
Celebrate the years that you poured, that you gave, that you saw increase, and pivot, shift.
Right. It doesn't look. Ministry is everywhere. You go to the supermarket. You can minister in the supermarket to the cashier. You know, I think we box God in that whole mindset of, we just have to be on a pulpit or we got to be doing, something, specific to the church. Ministry is everywhere you get the opportunity to be at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I was just looking at some of the comments. No one asked a question, but I didn't see any questions, and we're out of time.
Right.
But we're going to be back next week. Next week is our codependent.
Y'all come back next week.
We're going to talk about codependency, personal, just in life, codependency with the church. And
you said what? Codependency with the church?
Codependency with the church.
Codependency with the church. That part.
Codependency with the church. Yeah.
Oh, y'all might not like us, but we gonna give y'all what God has given us. We gonna write a book.
We are.
We're gonna write a book.
We're gonna help free a lot of
people. We are.
And I'm
excited. Yeah. Because I think it's important, Yeah, I think it's important for people to have something that they can feast off.
Yeah.
That's not temporal.
And our story is so not uncommon.
Uncommon. It is so normal in the body of Christ.
But when I was trying to do research, and you know, when you talk about church hurt, nothing comes up for hurt pastors. It only comes up for pastors hurting the flock.
Wow.
Yeah. And remember, Hart Ramsey said, "No one hurts more than the pastor and his family." Yeah.
Pray for your pastors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pray for your pastors. Pray for their children. Pray for them. They need it.
Yeah.
They need it. They need you all to get healthy emotionally. They need you all to be strong enough spiritually.
And the children, especially the children, because the children get such the brunt. They get the brunt of everything.
Everything that they didn't sign up
for. People can be really mean to the pastor's children. Yeah. So cover them.
Definitely.
For sure. Yeah.
Woo. That was a lot.
Make sure you like and share. One of the things that I did before we end on my journey of me is I wrote a journal. Set your body free, mind, body, and spirit. A journal to freedom. I did some things that I just wanted to do.
That's so good. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. So you can go to my website at drdanita.com and you can order this Set Your Body Free, Mind, Body, Spirit. It'll definitely change your life. Yeah. All right. So like and share this video, and don't forget to follow me on my social media pages and also on the YouTube page. Subscribe, and we will see you back next week. And we're adding a guest. Kiara will be with us next week. She's also a mental health professional.
Yeah.
And we're going to really dig into this topic. And we're going to talk a lot of, for me, I've been doing research on codependency in women.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you don't want to miss it. Tell everybody about it. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining
us.
And we'll see you again next week.